Okay. Are we recording now? Now
we are recording now.
Life, Jiu-Jitsu, and everything with Jen and Jay. The inaugural episode.
Hey guys, it's been a minute. This is Gen Z, and I have not recorded a Gen Z podcast episode in a very long time due to our life and jiu-jitsu and everything.
Extenuating circumstances.
But for a long time, I've really been wanting to have a podcast with Jay as my sidekick because I think it would be amazing. And we do so many
Not
things
as partner,
together.
Sidekick.
As partner,
yeah.
sidekick,
No.
co-host,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
I'm Robin to your Batman, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure.
So I love you. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a thing. We're going to try and make it a thing.
We'll see how
this first one goes. But we hope you guys will keep listening. But we wanted to, I think, talk about kind of our first, episode that I always think is super funny is the glamour of owning a gym. Right?
Glamour in quotes. Do the
glamour
air quotes, yeah.
Of owning a gym. So just a little background.
Of owning a jiu-jitsu school.
A jiu-jitsu school, martial arts school.
Yeah.
Yes. Jay, give us your background a little bit on your work life when you opened the gym.
Jesus.
What?
Like, specific to jiu-jitsu?
Sure.
Background?
Well, also you can talk about your writing, just so people can meet you on the podcast who don't know you.
Oh, okay.
I mean, pretty much everybody knows you, but
Wow. Okay.
my amazing husband, Jay Ferrari.
Oh, gee, thanks.
Here you go.
I don't know, just a dude who likes to do jiu-jitsu, and I write, and kind of absolutely at random and through no design of my own, ended up owning a jiu-jitsu school that seems to be doing fairly well, was doing well for quite a while, and then you showed up and kind of took it to another level of performance, and that's been a great experience. But yeah, been training since 2002, I think, jiu-jitsu, and then Team Takoma started in 2009. We opened above we shared space with a Brazilian dance school above a hardware store in downtown Takoma Park. I was invited to teach there a couple times a week, and when I was a purple belt, and then it just kept growing, and we got more and more people, and we got to a place where it became obvious we should get our own space, which, with the help of some, some other experts who happen to be members, that we found a nice spot, and we moved in there in 2014, and it's just been growing. It's just like it's never anything I planned to be doing with my life, and here I am doing it with my life, and then you showed up, and now you get to do everything, and I get to sit back and just be like, I'm going to train a little, and I'm going to teach a little, and Jen's going to handle all the stuff.
And
it's awesome.
So we should tell people our gym is Capital MMA and Elite Fitness, Team Takoma. So we are in Takoma Park on New Hampshire Ave.
Yeah.
6836 New Hampshire Ave. Come and visit anytime you're in town.
Please.
But you are also a writer.
Yes.
You've been a writer.
Yeah.
Forever.
I've done that for a while now, since I got out of college. All kinds of stuff. Ad agency work, journalism, wrote for the Tribune for a while, wrote for WBEZ. Now I'm back to freelancing, which I'm really enjoying. It's nice to be back to freelancing and doing some magazine writing and working on always working on something. So I don't want to dive too deep on that because you don't want to jinx it. The
Knock on wood.
Old cliche is don't talk about it, write it.
Yes.
So
there you go. You're working on that while I'm, running the gym.
Right, you're running the gym.
So you've been a black belt for almost 10 years. I've been a black belt for this is coming up on my 3rd year anniversary, which is crazy.
Fantastic.
Got my black belt from my coach, Jeff Serafin. Shout out to Jeff. Go visit him in his new amazing space in Evanston. It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
so definitely go out there and train.
Crazy. Absolutely.
I can't wait for all of us to do a field trip there when everything's like totally finished. That would be awesome. But I think when we tell people sometimes, that we own a gym, people are like, oh my God, that's so cool. you own a jiu-jitsu gym, you get to train all the time.
Which is, there's merit to that.
Yes.
Like I was thinking about this when we were talking about doing the podcast, and I was like, it is really, it's very cool to run a space and to be able to train and, have a great group of people. Like jiu-jitsu people tend to be really good folks, and they coalesce around this presence that you've created. And like, I could never go back to a desk job. I know that for sure. Like I did that a little bit when I was in advertising and when I was in PR for a minute, and back in the .com days. And it's so great to, make a decent living and basically, run a school, and then you get to teach, you get to train, you get to interact with people. It's demanding in a lot of unexpected ways. But when people say, "Oh, it's so cool," and I got to stop and be grateful for that, because it's like I'm not sitting under fluorescent lights all day in some cubicle looking at spreadsheets and having some assistant regional district manager on me about hitting some kind of quota or something. I'm very grateful for that. So
for sure,
yeah.
And I think we're both of that kind of. I don't know. I've always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah, you for sure.
You've done a lot of freelancing besides working for agencies and working for yourself, and then obviously owning the gym about 15 years or so.
Yeah, wow.
So we got to check the math on that. But, I could never imagine going back to working for somebody else.
No.
And just love being able to create, a vision, a dream, something that's kind of like on our terms. That environment that we want. And of course, being able to teach jiu-jitsu full time. And, we also have Muay Thai and boxing and judo and kids programs, fitness classes, everything. So we get to manage all our amazing coaches that we have. But I could never, I'm as well as you are, super grateful, because we do get to train and be active and be physical, and we get to be our best rolling training partners as well, and train with each other.
And we get to do random podcast episodes at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday.
For sure, before we have to go back to the gym.
Before we have to go back.
We were at the gym. Now we go back, take a little break. But it is funny, as we say that, you do have to, and as a good coach, you definitely have to put your students, or make your students a priority. Absolutely. So I think that's something that, we really try to do and be mindful of. I feel like that's very time consuming, and I always want to put my students ahead of me. So, I have to be very conscious of setting aside time to train. And perfect example, like Jay was sick with bronchitis the past couple of weeks. He's recovering now, so you may hear him cough a little bit.
That's that right there.
I teach a majority of the jiu-jitsu classes at the gym, and then was taking on some of his classes. So today, Jay took my noon class to teach, which, is just great that we get to kind of cover for each other. But then I was able to get my lifting in, right? And then, train, and then we'll go back later and I'll teach tonight and we'll train. So it's great being able to have that, but you definitely have to kind of set aside your time. I think that's super important. As much as I talk about self-care, is you have to kind of schedule that separate time for you to be able to train, or, training with the training partners that you trust and want to work with. But, I think it bugs me a little bit when I see places or hear stories where students aren't necessarily the priority, or the instructor is kind of putting their training first. Mm-hmm. And when you're teaching a class, your students and members are there for you, to learn from you and for you to help them.
For sure. And
I think separating that time of kind of when you're training, or you have different objectives in your session, that's important to kind of keep those things a little bit separate.
It's huge. It's also, this is a, I don't know, industry is a horrible word. I hate that word. But this is a pursuit that attracts all kinds of really fascinating people, and you meet great folks. But you often encounter people who are drawn to this, and then they see an instructor, they see a black belt, and other folks have talked about this, who hold that rank, about how you become thought of as some kind of authority, or some kind of mentor or guru, or, just you're learning a lot of very personal stuff about people. Mm-hmm. And you have to set those boundaries. Like, hey man, I'm just a guy who likes to do jiu-jitsu. Like, if you need to get it, if you need to change jobs, or you're not sure what your sexual identity is or whatever, that's your call. I mean, I'll give you my 2 cents, but people they really open up to you, and that can be like that's draining and demanding on your time. You have to set those boundaries, whether it's about your training or not. You have to be like, I try to just be a good instructor, try to be a good friend, and kind of keep it at that. But definitely, you hear about schools where there's almost like a messianic complex with some of these instructors, and people like, fall in line and do whatever they say to do, and there's a weird sort of fealty to the head instructor, and I'm like, that's awkward to me. And
yeah, we're not all bowing down to the black belts. I don't know. I think that gets a little strange, and of course, respect what other gyms do, but it's I've always heard this. Jeff's always said this. Other friends of mine, who I've looked up to as mentors, and as black belts, it's like they've just been doing this longer.
Yeah.
They've just been on the mats doing this longer.
Yes.
Of course, you want to have respect for people, for people running the gym, right? For your training partners, for anybody in life, right? You want to be kind and respectful. But, we're not looking for that kind of, I am the black belt, so bow down to me, and you can't ask me to roll, or you can't, we want people to feel comfortable in that environment. But what you kind of bring up with that too is, setting boundaries. I think we're kind of like mom and dad, and that's how a lot of people view us. I'm so grateful for all our students and coaches. They're all awesome. And I think we just really try and create that environment of good training, good people, good vibes. Mm-hmm. And no matter what your goal is, if it's self-defense, if it's competition, if it's just to, lose weight, or you're a hobbyist or want to build confidence, whatever it may be, right? We want to support all those goals and aspects. But myself kind of being an esthetician for so many years, and Reiki practitioner, makeup artist, like I've always had people kind of come to me and open up and talk to me. So I'm that doesn't really change here, especially, as a personal trainer now, jiu-jitsu coach, nutrition coach. A lot of that is very, very much like a mindset. And there's usually a lot of things that,
a mindset for who? What do you mean?
It's more so like, it's not just the act of doing something. There's a lot of psychological things that go along with it. Mm-hmm. So I think people tend to open up and talk about other things or emotions that come up with it, that, it's not just about losing weight. Like, I'm doing this because I've had these other issues in my life, whatever it may be.
Sure.
So I think I've always been kind of open to that, and a good listener, I like to say. So I like to be supportive there for people to come up and talk and share things. Mm-hmm. And I know Jeff has always been that way. If we have an issue on or off the mats, it's like, he's there to be able to talk to. And I like to let my students know that they can always do that. Sure. They can talk to us about anything.
Sure, you want to be accessible.
Yes.
I think that kind of speaks to the whole idea of, your teammates. Like, I don't even like to say students. I mean, you have to. There's a descriptive terms, but I think of other. We're all teammates, and the only difference, between me and a purple belt is a few more years on the mat. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's all these young purple belts who know all this crazy stuff, and they come out and beat the crap out of you. So it's like, no problem there.
That's great.
But
that's what we want.
Yeah, that's absolutely what we want. So I think I don't know, I've always maintained that. I think one of the reasons we connected, and one of the reasons that our communities, integrated so well, is because we have that same mindset. You come from a background, I come from a background. Jeff's super genuine, guy. Jeremy, super genuine guy. Lamont, he's a goofball. He's listening, but he's, super at the end of the day, no one was ever like, you have to call me Master Sensei or some garbage like that.
Yeah.
And you could have conversations and learn some good techniques and have some fun and get better at this. We're not curing pediatric cancer here. We're trying to just improve ourselves in several different ways. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, I guess I'm getting hung up on that because you hear a lot about that in the jiu-jitsu community where there's a lot of people who take themselves super, super seriously.
Yeah.
And that just seems like it's wearisome for the people around them. And it's just got to take so much effort to be that person moving through life as well. Like that's got to be really exhausting to wake up every morning and say, now I got to be this guy. And you're like, okay, man, So if you kind of excuse yourself from having that type of energy, I think everything's a lot more enjoyable.
For sure. Yeah.
So
can't take yourself so seriously.
No.
I think that's the moral of that story.
I don't know.
So
I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm on a lot of.
I don't know, but it's good.
I'm on
it's
a lot
great.
of meds, so
Sure. Bronchitis meds.
they're good stuff.
Ultimately, we're there for our people.
Absolutely right.
And we love being able to train and do jiu-jitsu, and that's one of the biggest perks. But what are some of your least favorite things to do at the gym?
I don't know. That's a great. It's funny because it's like, it's kind of the Zen thing where the thing conjures its opposite. Like there's, I think the worst job you have to do on a consistent basis is empty that cruddy foot bath.
The foot bath,
I know.
man.
It's like,
the foot bath.
It's this bin, if you're unfamiliar, it's this bin, maybe 2 feet by 3 feet, that's filled with this like tea tree oil solution to clean your feet before you step on the mat, keep the cooties off the mat kind of thing. And it gets funky pretty quickly. So you got to pour it out. You got to rinse it, put in fresh solution,
Thanks, Defense Soap.
Yeah. Thank
if
you,
you're
Defense
listening.
Soap. Indeed. Defense Soap smells so good when it's fresh and then it just smells like slow death when it's time. Though, you're like, look at that. It's got to be emptied. But, that can't be beneath you. Like, we've all,
For sure.
like the joke that I've said before is like, don't trust a black belt who won't roll, but definitely don't trust a black belt who won't clean the toilet. Like you've got to, all these things you have to be as a gym owner, you got to be ready to do any of them. And I mean, we've both done it, like unclogged toilet.
I unclogged the toilet the other day.
Yeah.
I like to pride myself as being a plumber's daughter. Just props to my dad, LZ. But hopefully I paid attention to half the stuff that he would talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. I feel like it's, there's always something to do. And we have to be on top of that. I feel like I'm such a control freak, but I need to make sure, as do you, like we go in and we're looking for certain things. Like we have a clean team. We have people that can help us out.
Great people doing that.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's certain things I think we look for that have to be like, we're super meticulous about.
There
Because
should always be something to do.
Yeah.
Like you.
But it's
you've
got to
been
be a clean environment,
Yes.
right? We have people grappling and coming
Yes.
in, and we need to keep it safe, right?
You've been to schools where you go in there and the mat's all scungy and it's just like, come on, guys. Like, it doesn't have to be like, surgically clean, but, you could go in there on any given day and I'm going to find like, well, I guess I got to dust the fans off. Everything else looks great. Let me take care of it. There's always, or let me just organize the Muay Thai pads or something. But I think that's something a good gym owner is always kind of, eyes are always moving and being aware and let's straighten this up, let's dust this. You have pride in your place. I mean, It's your
Absolutely.
place of business and you want to have some pride there. And I think that's got to express itself and that can't be beneath you. So in a weird way, like closing the loop on my Zen metaphor there, like the least favorite things in a weird way can be your favorite things, like, sweeping the mats and mopping and you get real meditative. I mean, I like it. I'll just put some tunes on and, run the mop over the mats or whatever. But, you have to be doing that kind of stuff. You have to
But
be paying attention.
that's a good point, though. I think it gives you like pride in your space and what you're doing, just knowing you're doing that stuff. It could be tedious and, not the most appealing thing. We'll get to my least favorite thing in a second. But, but knowing that you're taking care of it and that it's a clean, safe environment and it looks good. We have a very old school looking gym, which means it's not super fancy, we'll say, but it's like
Gritty.
It's gritty.
Gritty
yes.
is the word I've heard. Which I like.
Gritty.
Not dirty, but gritty.
But clean, but a safe space, to train in. And we're talking about like, from skin infections and all weird stuff, right?
Yeah.
We have our blood spray, blood on the mats, got to clean it up. But I think my it's got charm. It's got character. We'll just say
got
that with
character.
the grit. But my least favorite thing to do is clean out those damn loogies in the sink.
Oh, that's horrible.
So-
Yeah.
So we have like an old school, just basically kind of like smaller sink. And one of our Muay Thai coaches one day gave us like one of those screens to protect the drain so things wouldn't go down, because a lot of times in kids classes, kids like to rip up the paper towels and put them in the sink. So that was a great answer for that. But
Well, that stopped.
that stopped
I had to have
pretty
words
much.
with the kids.
But as you know, then dealing with adults, sometimes you have to talk to the adults like
lot of
they're
times.
the children.
A lot of
But you know, hence we're mom and dad. But when, you know, people are going in the bathroom to spit up loogies, I'm like, remove. And I did a video. We have a group on Facebook
share
for
that
the
video.
gym.
Yes.
And I did a video to show people how to spit into the sink.
I'm legit
because
like
they would
nauseous right now.
spit
'Cause I've cleaned that too.
in the screen, and like you can't just dump it and clean it. Like loogies will stay there, and they're so thick
It's
and
so
hanging
foul.
down. It's disgusting.
It's rough.
So, and then I'm like, God damn it. Just remove the screen before you spit.
Yeah.
Which is why I ended up making that video.
Or don't
But
spit in the toilet.
spit
or
in the
lean
toilet.
out the back
There you
door
go.
into the parking lot.
There you go.
But
It's great. But I would say that's one of the
Least favorite.
least favorite
That's
things.
pretty. Yeah. I get no Zen centering when I'm cleaning glue. That's true. I'm not like, oh, this is.
I'd rather clean the toilet than do
Yes,
that. Like
yes.
that's fine.
Yeah. I will, to kind of continue on this thread for a minute, like one of the things I dislike doing, but I understand has to be done, is on the topic of cleanliness and hygiene, is when I do have to go to a student, you know, usually the protocol is if you sense there's someone in a class who's not really on point with their hygiene, then you make a general announcement like, hey, make sure you're trimming your nails and showering. You know, the old joke, you know, a good training partner showers after class. The best training partner shower before class. Blah, blah, blah. If that doesn't sink in, like I've had to go to people, and, you know, and you don't want to embarrass anybody. You don't call people out in front
Yeah.
of others, but you have to pull somebody aside, and you're talking to adults. And so when there's a failure there, part of me sees that as like, oh, there's, you know, they missed some kind of formative education on how to take care of themselves. And you have to be like, hey, you know, man, you really got to be, you know, it's not, and some people it's profound. Like it's not just, oh, you're a little funky, make sure next time you put deodorant on. Like some people have some serious shortfalls or that's happened in the past. And so you feel bad, but that is where you have to like recognize, you know, this is for the greater good. When I have other students coming up and complaining, hey, so-and-so, like I can't stand next to them. Or we can't be down in the dungeon, you know, in that little confined training space. Like the whole space is, you know, just unsavory because of their presence. So in a way I feel bad about that, but I also, you know, I try to be just honest.
You do a great job.
You know, and you got to
I
pull
let
them aside.
Jay deal with that.
I don't. I have to be the heavy. I don't mind.
But you make people feel very comfortable in jiu-jitsu being right comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, but of making them, you know, feel comfortable while explaining, because like you said, this could be something that people aren't really aware of. I think one of the biggest things is you can never assume people know
Correct.
things.
That's correct.
I've like come across this in everything that I've done in my career and life, but you know, this is something you don't necessarily think about when you're opening a gym. You might have to have these conversations with people, right?
Yeah.
And you can never assume. So announcing these things, we put emails out about them, especially as it gets like into summer months at Takoma. We don't have AC. Like I said, we like to offer the very authentic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu experience. So we got doors open, no AC. It's great for cutting weight for a tournament, you know, awesome. But you know, that can bring up a lot of extra, like, let's really be diligent on our hygiene here and changing out gear if we're training multiple classes, just to be a really good partner.
Yeah.
So I think you do a great job, though, of talking to people.
And you can tell, like,
about that.
you know, I mean, a large percentage of our demographic is you've got these young guys in their late teens through 20s, and speaking as a former guy in his late teens and 20s, sometimes we're not quite clued in. Like, am I funky? No, I'm good. Let's go. And you're like, no, my friend. And you know what? Anybody listening, if it's ever a financial issue, don't worry. I got a thing of Speed Stick and a bar of Zest. That's on me. Hit me up. I got you. Don't worry about it. But that, and I think the segue there that's really interesting about running a school is that a lot of your time is people skills. It's interacting with people. It's personality management. It's, sometimes coaches and students don't get along. You have to intercede there, or, over the years I've had to deal with people. There's been a couple instances of, and it's all allegation based. Like I never take it past that point where someone says, someone was inappropriate with me in a class, or, maybe someone was too physical, or maybe someone, inappropriate contact. And I, can't make presumptions on either side of that issue. I just try to act like in accordance with, legal concerns. Like there's been moments where I'm like, listen, I have to do this because that if I don't do this legally, our school is going to be in trouble. Mm-hmm. And that's not fun, but you have to do it. You have to be aware. You're in charge of preserving the health of this kind of organism that you're now creating when people are coming and going and interacting. And
you have to be an advocate for all of your students. Yeah. And, if there's someone kind of working their way in that, there's situations or, giving off negative vibes. I think a lot of those people tend to weed themselves out, which is great.
They do.
But, we've had on that employee front, there's been people, not too many, it's probably only a handful for you for the past 15 years, but I can think of a couple instances from when I've been out here about, 3 years now, where it's just like, we have to make the best decisions for our people for our gym. Yes. And, not everyone kind of is on the same page.
And if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. And that,
not the same vibes.
I mean, that's like, I don't want someone coming in, you hear about a student who might be, I've had people come in who you can tell they just enjoy hurting people, like in Muay Thai or in Jiu-Jitsu, and there's people who've come in with previous experience. I mean, they're ranked up and they got, color on their belt, or they're a good boxer or whatever. And of others, I've observed or had students come to me and say, I'm wondering if this person has the ability to regulate their energy very well. They seem to be really like not just training with intensity, but training to push that line of where they're going to injure people. And it's, okay, first we have a conversation. It's like, that's got to stop. And if I hear about it again, you're done. And that's happened a couple of times. Or there have been people who, inappropriate, male student inappropriately making advances toward female students. I'm like, you can't do that. That's got to stop. If that happens again, you're done. Yeah. And that is another very real situation you have to be prepared to deal with. Fortunately, it's very rare. It's been very rare over the lifetime of the school, but it's not one of those things you can pretend
doesn't
you
exist.
You can hope goes away.
Yeah,
I think there's places where maybe that gets enculturated then, and then it becomes problematic for everybody at the school, and I have zero tolerance for that kind of stuff.
I'll tell you, I am Mama Bear, so I'm
big
so
time.
protective over all my students and our members, and that's always the priority. And it's unfortunate, like you said, that you have to think about that stuff, but you can't ignore things like that. Yeah. Hopefully you never have to deal with them, but that's something that is part of our job, and to just keep our kind of spidey senses, right? Like, and always kind of, I like to encourage people to always come talk to us about anything. And it could be the littlest thing, right? But like a big thing, we're always here and open. It's not something you have to deal with or go through yourself. So we would rather know as a gym owner, what's happening in our space, so that we can, take appropriate action and be aware.
That is, and you know, I mean, the kind of the one of the topics we're talking around, but which is, you know, it's I don't want to say rampant, but it's definitely, it's pervasive in jiu-jitsu, in any scenario where you've got authority figures and, you know, new people learning a skill or in an environment of instruction, but, you know, kind of the sexual assault and the predatory behavior is something that if you can't disregard it. If someone comes to you with a complaint or an observation, if they come to you, you have to be ready to honor what they're saying, listen to what they're saying, and be prepared to respond to it. But you also have to make it clear from the beginning that you are available for that.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and that's interesting. You don't just like announce every class like, "Hey, by the way, if anybody's creeping on you, make sure you come and talk to us about it." But I think that's something that becomes self-evident if you create that climate, you know, and that comes from. I mean, you're great about this. I've always tried to be, you know, even if you don't remember everybody's name, you're moving through the class. Hey, how's your training going? How are things? And you can tell if somebody's like, everything good, you know, what's going on? Everything cool? And you, and then you'll get that person who'll be like, actually, you know, do you mind if you got a minute? I need to run something by you. And you're like, oh, okay. And you step out into a space where you have some privacy or whatever, and you got to listen to what they have to say. But you have to take that stuff seriously, you know. So, you know, anybody who's listening who's like, oh, I can't wait to open up my own school. It's like, well, you're going to be cleaning up loogies and you're going to be dealing with creeps, man. That, you know, hopefully not too much, but you got to be prepared to deal with that. That is the real. And you're going to be paying out the ass for insurance. So that's the truth there. So
Keeping everyone safe at all times.
At all times.
But it is, you know, we have so many, you know, I think one of the awesome things is, and you had, you know, built this before I got here, but we have, like I said, we have so many great coaches, but we have so many classes all the time, like 7 days a week, pretty much morning, noon and night. Yeah. You know, so, and we have so many different programs. So I think really being able to check in with all of our coaches and having that close relationship, because we pretty much know all of the students, but there are some students, you know, we're always there noon class, like during the day and evening classes. But in the morning class, you know, like we have Coach Dan who teaches Breakfast Club, and then we have Coach Ben and Miner who teaches Muay Thai and really, yes, and a realtor. And then we have, you know, Coach Miner and Coach Ben, and some of our other Muay Thai coaches who are there early morning with Fight Team and all that stuff. But you know, we're not able to be there 24 hours a day, right? Maybe like 15.
Some days.
But, you know, so really kind of establishing those close relationships and always checking in with our coaches and always making sure we're connecting with our members and students, even if it's not someone who trains directly under us, just really, you know, trying to make sure that they know who we are. You know, they feel good in the gym, they're having a good experience and all of that.
I remember a moment that really became really crystallized for me, just to name drop, which I hate doing, but I'm going to do it. I was in Miami training at Valente Brothers, and that's another remarkable school. They got that same suspended floor thing that Jeff has in Evanston.
Yeah.
And that's just such awesome. Cadillac training right there when you're on that. I mean, nice. You know, we have nice thick mats, but I mean, that sprung floor, you're like, oh my gosh, I could be here all day. But, you know, he was having a conversation with a bunch of black belts who had gathered, and he said, you know, you need to be in your schools. And the way he said it made me think that sometimes that's not the case. Like, people will open a school and then you hire people to teach classes, and, you know, maybe you're there a little bit or not, you know, and I was certainly, in running my place initially, you know, I kind of let it run itself, and fortunately I had good people and it did a good job, but, you know, being much more present to it of late, especially as, you know, kind of inspired by you, you know, I had, you know, for the listening audience, like
future episode.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, Jen's kind of, established this, you know, there's regular weekly emails now, and there's a Google chat group, and there's all this stuff where people have the means to communicate and interact. And then, you know, we're just there. You're just there, you know, getting to know people, learning people's names, saying hey.
It's family. It's community.
That creates, that's the kind of idyllic training environment you want, because then you can, then you're going out there trying to rip each other's heads off, but all in good fun.
Which is great.
Yes.
It's such a huge stress relief, especially when you can do that with your partner and husband. It's awesome.
Stress relief for you.
Yes.
Not for me when you're trying to put a shit in my face.
Listen, your frames
smashing me
are not a fun time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to survive.
So,
yeah.
But no, I agree. And I think too, it's great having this like system set and all of these people we can kind of lean on, especially when we want to travel back home. Both of our families are in Chicago, and we love to go back home and train at Jeff's with my teammates there and see our family. And I still take clients back home, so it's great to be able to kind of go back and forth when we can, and need to, but it's, you have to be present in your space. Yeah. And I love bringing kind of both those teams together as one big family and experience.
It's a lot of fun
for people. So,
a lot of fun.
So yeah. What else would be one of your least favorite things you think?
Oh, what else? My least favorite things. I don't know. Like when I go down, we have this space in the basement, the dungeon, which is, a few 100 square feet of mat space and some weights and kettlebells and stuff. And that place gets grungy, and you got to get down there in the corners with the vacuum cleaner, and it's gnarly, and you got to, you can't pretend it's not. There's stuff under that yoga bench that's becoming sentient. Like if you don't pay attention to it, it's like talking back to you when you reach under there to clean it out. So, but you got to do it.
You got to do it.
And then, you know what? I do this, but I mean, how tough is it to put your dang weights back? I just cannot. I don't understand it. Like if you take something from a spot and you use it, you put it right back in the spot where you just got it from. This is the whole, like, we're basically parents to 200-some kids.
Is exactly.
And you let it go. Like, you're not going to, I'm never going to.
250 members trying to organize all their.
I'm never going to win that fight. It's always going to be chaos. And once every couple of days, I'm down there lifting or whatever, and I'm like, God damn it. And I start reorganize the kettlebells. But, that's something you kind of laugh off because.
Oh, sure, of course.
That's not a hill to die on, but
No.
it is. I think of that as the cool down. Like, okay, well, now I cool down by reorganizing the kettlebell rack.
This is where we get to vent. We get to vent to each other, but we get to vent to all of you. But I'd say, and I'm actually surprised you didn't bring this up, was the lost and found.
Oh, yeah, man.
I'd say the lost and found in water bottles that end up everywhere, half drank water bottles. But lost and found stuff that I'm like, how do people not realize they've left this year?
Yeah.
Like now at the point, I'll just, if I see socks or any undergarments, they're getting tossed in the trash. But, we try and kind of hold on to things for the month. And it's end of month, clearing this out. If you want your stuff, come through it, sort through it. But it's just and water bottles, nice water bottles. So not just regular water bottles. That you can throw away, but nice reusable water bottles that people leave Yeti, all the time.
Good, Yeti water bottles or whatever.
I'm like, you're here at the gym all the time. How do you not see this or come back for this?
Yeah, I mean, that makes me say that maybe that means their workout was so good, they're so punchy when they leave, they just want to get the hell out, which is okay. I go through that stuff at the end of the month, and anything that's training related, like gloves or belts or gi tops, or that doesn't get tossed.
Yeah, no,
but clothing, or that was
something gets real funky.
Oh, that stuff's just got to go. But then, sometimes there was a nice kind of small double-breasted, like a navy pea coat, like a woman's cut pea coat. It was cool, but it was small, and it was there, and it was there for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll go donate this. But then Danielle, one of our coaches, and she's kind of petite. And I'm like, hey, you want this coat? She's like, oh, yeah, awesome. Great winter coat. And I'm like, oh, you should check the pockets to see if there's, and she reached in the pocket and pulled $40 cash out of it. I'm like, that should be my money. That stuff was sitting, that coat. So now I meticulously check the pockets on everything.
But I've had people leave their wallets and then call that, like, thankfully,
Yes,
like in
that
a
for
wallet,
sure.
obviously you can check their ID, but it's like, how, and of course, like, accidentally you leave stuff. But I mean, there's stuff that just gets left all the time.
One guy left a really, he had obviously,
AirPods.
he had just hit the dispensary, obviously.
Oh God.
Like he had his like bag of dope and like in the and I'm like, oh, look at this. This is a nice looking bag of weed here. And then like within maybe 20 minutes, the phone rang.
Yeah.
He's like, I think I left it. Yeah, you did, man. He's like, oh, I'm coming back to get it. I'm like, good thing you called.
Oh my gosh. Keys. I've had people leave key fobs. I'm like, how are they getting home?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. That's funny though. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating.
But some people like
things like that.
Nice running shoes or their street clothes. Like they change into their workout gear or whatever, but like a whole set of like nice, work pants and underwear and I'm like, how do you walk out without you
need this, man. But I think it's like the one thing if it gets left there, but then like no one claims it or calls or is like, hey, did I leave this? And we're kind of like, whose is this? Like, and someone finally comes to get it. But it's like,
and we post, in the emails and social media, whatever, like, hey, 1 week before I clean everything out, otherwise it's getting donated or tossed.
Right.
So.
So what's one of your, as we're coming on 40 minutes here, what's your most favorite thing about running a martial arts gym?
Wow. Just being in there, like being able to train like today, middle of the day, teaching a class. It was a beautiful day today.
It was.
Weather's nice. Doors are
perfect.
open. Doors are open. It's like 70 degrees. You got a good crew in there. Yofti's getting ready to compete on Saturday. So I'm like, let's get around and I can, try and push him. I just tried to, give him some business so he could react. Just a good training session on a beautiful day with the music playing. And you're just like, this is how I get to spend my day. Like I'm pretty much goofing around, and, that pays the bills. And so that's pretty awesome. Like that makes, all this other stuff we're kind of grousing about is pretty minor inconvenience. And, if you can wrangle that and you create this environment where you get all these good people and you're getting good training in, like, it's just, that's a real gift. That's really cool.
And we get to do it together.
Yeah. It's catching up on me as I age. I'm like taking a lot of Advil and got to pry myself out of bed in the morning. But I guess I'll go till I can't go anymore.
It just dawned on me too. It's funny. I make Jay do a lot of like the really challenging stuff. So talking to people about, hygiene and chasing down past dudes. Because that's a thing that sometimes people feel like being in a gym environment, you just don't have to pay.
Oh, yeah, you get that like, oh, right.
It's interesting.
I thought we were friends. And you're like, we are, but like, this is how I make a living.
This is our business. But, and that being said, if anyone ever has a struggle or they lose their job, we're always willing to work with people.
Absolutely.
But it's kind of the just not addressing the situation.
You do become aware.
Training and not.
You become aware of personality types. And there are people who otherwise are real likable, but people will get away with what they can get away. There are those people like that. Like, sure. I've had people who, they're 3 months in the hole, and I'm like calling them and emailing, no response. And then I see them, hey man, oh yeah, right, do it. Oh, right, man. And like, yeah, I need you to pay, or, this is going to get goofy.
You put food on the table,
And then you have other people who, like, if their payment didn't go through for any reason,
super proactive,
and they call you, I'm like, I see my dues didn't get pulled. What do I need to do? And it is a thing. Just the way of the world now. Like, identity theft happens so much, and people's always like, oh yeah, my card got lost, my card got stolen, and you call them up and you get the updated information and you switch it out and it's a piece of cake. So you got everybody in between that spectrum, and then you've got people very legitimately it's hard out there.
Yeah,
And there's
absolutely.
there's people. I mean, and part of me really really loves these kind of folks, like these people who they want to train, and they're like, doing piecework and contract gigs and working in construction, but it's all seasonal or whatever. And then they're like, they come to you like, oh, I got to stop training because I don't have a gig. And like, listen, man, keep training. We'll work something out, because I can tell it's good for you. You're having a good time, or then they want to get on the clean team or something. Like
Yeah.
we find a way to make it work.
Absolutely.
Because if somebody wants to train, man, we will definitely, it's just too good for you across the board, like mentally, physically. Like if you really want to train, we're going to find a way to make it work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's important. Like I think that's like what we give back to jiu-jitsu or martial. That's what we owe.
For sure.
Because there's people who come in, and these kids who, they get laid off, or that they're working these jobs that are, hard work, and they don't get paid much for them.
Mm-hmm.
But then they really thrive. They really flourish in this environment.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're almost sheepish, like they're embarrassed. And I'm like, you know what? Let's not even go there, man. You're doing your best to make it through life. Let's get you through. Don't worry about it. No pride. Don't let pride get in the way.
I think that kind of comes into like one of my favorite things, or I think favorite thing about running the gym. I mean, there's so many amazing things. Like we've talked about, we get to train all the time. We get to learn and study jiu-jitsu, something that we love, that we're passionate about. We get to work together.
Yeah.
I love teaching. Teaching has become my passion. So getting to create the curriculum, all of that, it just, it's something
You excel at.
I just love.
Yeah.
But what I really, really think is like my favorite thing is just being able to see the impact of the gym, like on people's lives and of them, and not the gym per se, but them coming there. Like it's a happy place. It's a safe place for them, but the training that they're getting and how it's impacted them and changed their lives. Whether it's that, for self-defense, for confidence, right? To compete in something they never thought they could. But just being able to get in and have roles and have that stress relief, no matter what's going on in their life, just that positive impact that it creates.
So transformative.
And just seeing people from when they first come in to, a few years down the line, or even 6 months down the line, just the changes that it's made, or, just seeing their progress, like as an instructor and a coach, being able to see the progress of your student. And then students ultimately like, man, how had I show that? Like, God, now they're getting me with that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's such like, it's the, we want our students to be better than we are, like ultimately, but it's just so great, I think, to just see how it positively impacts someone's life, because we know how it's impacted our lives.
For sure.
And being able to kind of give that or help, somebody else get that same thing.
Yeah, amen to that. It's such a, like, centering, the benefits just transcend, like, the physical pretty quickly. Like, it's great to know how to fight and protect yourself, and it's great to get healthy, but the psychological impact, like we talk about, like one of our guys, Mo, we just promoted to black belt, I mean, tough as nails, total punk rocker. And, we got him his black belt, and he wrote this nice little kind of missive on social media about, he's like, before I did this, I wasn't quite sure what I was doing. He started jiu-jitsu, then he got into nursing school. He's a nurse now.
He's had a great career.
He's got a great career. He's out there kicking ass and taking names. He's playing in punk band. So he's like a nurse, but he's also like a whole slam dancer or something like that. I don't know. But, that kind of, to see that is like, in addition to him having this really sick Kimura where he'll rip your damn shoulder off.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But it's like, to see that being such a catalyst for positive change in a person's life is really cool, So I love that. And I mean, I guess the kind of overarching thing too is you just encounter such a great cross section of people.
Oh, absolutely.
There are people from every walk of life, every ethnicity, every sexual orientation. It's fantastic. And
people you would never think you'd be friends with, like if you weren't kind of in those circles, or for whatever circumstance, like in jiu-jitsu or martial arts, you come in and train, and it's, anybody and everybody, right? That you can just now create these friendships with. And I think you just, because you have to have so much trust with your training partner, you become so much closer to those people. Like those relationships and bonds grow stronger pretty quickly because you are, you need this sense of trust, right? So someone's not like ripping your arm off or whatever, you're trusting your training partners to not actually hurt you while they're hurting you, right? But I think you grow very close to these people, and it's just everybody from all walks of life, like just coming together, which is so cool. We have so many different people, especially out here in the DC area, like that we get to train with. And it's like, oh my God, you do what? Like, this is what you do for your career. Like, it's crazy. But so cool.
I just love like the range of like, you'll have on the mat, like working together as training partners. You've got, maybe some kid in his 20s who, is an immigrant from Guatemala, like, struggling to make it. And he's partnered up with a high-powered DC attorney.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And they're like buddies.
It's great.
And it's very humanizing, and it's very leveling. And you've got people from different faiths, and again, like there's no, it's one of those things where like I wish contemporary politics could, everybody in Congress. Why
can't it just be like that?
Why can't, like, let's just get Congress to all do jiu-jitsu once a day too, because then they'd realize, like, actually, you're not such a bad guy, or maybe you are a bad guy, so I'm gonna choke you out. But whatever it is,
sure.
it's that's great to see.
That's something to think about there.
Yeah, right,
hey.
right.
Yeah.
I would totally choke out Ron DeSantis, but I didn't say that. Sorry, I don't want to politicize our podcast.
Yes, please, please.
That wouldn't take much effort anyway. So.
Well, this has been great.
Okay.
I think this is good. Yeah. Hopefully people want to listen to us talk more about things, about life, jiu-jitsu, everything.
Life, jiu-jitsu, and everything. We'll have to figure out what the everything is and other things.
Oh, we've got a lot to talk about.
I suppose so. I suppose we do. We'll have like...
entering into our lives a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah. Just, we'll keep the loogies to a minimum.
Yes.
That's unsaid.
Yes.
That's the one thing that kind of I get churned up. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. That's so gross. I can't get my head around it.
But anybody who trains jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, whatever, who trains, who doesn't train, who's looking to train, definitely come out, visit us. We always love having visitors come by. It's awesome. One of our also other favorite things. So reach out. You can follow us at Team Takoma and at All Things Gen Z. You can follow Jay at Letterton.
Letterton, L-E-T.
Letterton.
You know where that comes from?
You tell me this all the time. I like to say Letterton.
It sounds like that's somebody's last name. Like, oh, Mr. Letterton. No, it's Letterton. Letterten. Letterten. J is the 10th letter of the alphabet. Duh. See, I'm so weird.
There you go.
Isn't that just so?
I love it. That's Jay. There's lots of things you're going to learn about Jay.
What a clever
Jonathan,
guy.
really.
Jesus.
Is what I call him.
No.
His real name.
Yeah.
But, well, this has been fun. I love you.
Been fun.
This is great.
It has been fun.
Any questions you ever want to ask us too? I think this is a great opportunity. We always like to get messages and like different topics you'd want us to talk about. So this is kind of, we're going to hope this is in lieu of the Gen Z podcast. We're working into this new, podcast hosting with my hubby.
Sidekick.
My sidekick. Rolling partner for life.
Sure.
So I hope you guys enjoy. And I can't wait until next time.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
We'll
go train. If you're listening to this and you're wondering if you should go train or not, you should. Go train. Okay. Everybody should be welcome. Go. Get on the mat. Have fun.
We'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Ciao.
Bye.